This is the One Up Network. Welcome to the One Up Yours podcast for Friday, February 2nd, 2007. This is your host, Garnet Lee. I've got you know what, we're going to do something completely different today because last week in the middle of the show, we got bogged down in this really weird segment trying to get into this whole gaming university thing, and it kind of degenerated on us because we didn't have a plan. So we spent the entire week focusing on how to really look at this whole thing. We wanted to get into, redefining the vocabulary of gaming. And to bring that educational aspect to it, what we're doing is Skip's put together a bunch of clips from last week's show. And what we're going to do is, as far as analyzing them, is take each one of these clips and break them down and kind of develop like a hierarchy. I mean, what do you think, Luke? Is that the right way by hierarchy?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to basically go back through last week and sort of deconstruct our deconstruction, really.
Right. Bring some order to the chaos of last week's conversation.
And then in so doing, we're going to codify a new language in which to discuss
You should mention the guests that we're bringing in.
So first of all, and Luke, I got to compliment you on this. You were able to get Beige in the studio. So he's right over here in the green room waiting to, chime in. We're going to bring him in later, right?
We're going to bring him in later,
It was his idea.
The whole thing was his idea,
right.
so we have him to thank.
And then, of course, John's here. John's already in, and you're a very literary gentleman.
I'd like to think so, yeah.
And then I guess it was your help that got us Henry Jenkins.
Yeah, he'll be here too.
So this is going to be fantastic.
He's a professor at MIT. It's important that people know he's a huge gaming scholar. This is right up his and his department's alley. It's really exciting to have him here.
So, are you ready to kick this thing off?
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
And we should say as well that we're going to devote all three of the segments today to this, as opposed to the usual format. We've not really been playing much that's that different this week, so
we're going to do.
We're going to talk about Crackdown and Hotel Dusk again. I don't think so.
Yeah, that's
World of Warcraft. No one's playing it. Everyone's talking about games, the language of games,
and that's what the audience really wants to hear.
I think another thing that they really want is that last week we didn't have Shane here, and this week Shane's here.
Shane's contribution we missed. So, I mean, we have to reiterate on some of the points from last week so that you can get your input.
I think this sounds really fucking lame. I don't want to talk about this shit. Seriously, guys.
Maybe we should just break out and then do the regular show.
Yeah, tell Beige to go home.
All
right, hey, get out.
What do we do with Jenkins?
Go. Go.
Just he can go get a burger or something. Get the fuck out.
All right, scratch that.
Let's get to it. New plan.
Next.
I'm back, bitches.
Oh, you're like Jay-Z. Does that mean you're selling out for Cherry Coke?
I'm redefining Cherry Coke, the vocabulary of it. No, that's all good.
All right, so let's do a regular show. So we're going to go through the regular format, which will be in the opening. We'll do what you've been playing. I know that you were at Konami yesterday.
I was.
You got some exciting stuff to talk about. You're Crackdown whoring.
Play Crackdown. Talk about Crackdown. I'm sorry.
And what was the other game you've been playing?
Oh yeah, wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll just talk about it because I've been playing some different stuff.
I actually played something different and actually surprised Shane with the game I was playing this week.
All right, so we got plenty there. In the middle segment, we're actually going to do a 4-minute warning segment. We got a bunch of stuff.
We are going to cleanse yours palette
crowd
this week.
Pleaser.
Yep, and that means we have to remember this time to start a new thread to get more. So we have to go back to do that. And then news in the third segment.
Mountainous.
Before we go on, I think we need to address what a fucking podcast whore Luke has become.
Yeah, you're going.
Are we just not enough for you that you have to cheat on us with every other podcast out there? You were on Podtacular this week.
Wait, he's a little jealous sounding there.
I don't.
He's like, are we not satisfying enough
he's
for you anymore?
You're
Luke?
spreading the Luke Smith brand a little thin. Okay?
It's not getting thinner. Unfortunately.
So you're on Podtacular. You're on.
I've done Podtacular.
You're on the Legendary Thread, the new WoW podcast.
The new WoW podcast in the network. Which is actually, if people haven't listened to it, I want them to listen to it and give us some feedback at boards.oneup because it is something different. And what we're going to be doing with that show to sort of shill for a little bit, Damien and I talked about it this week. We're reimagining it a little bit, and we're going to start getting people from the industry who just play WoW, like Dave Carricker over at Sony is going to come on and talk about World of Warcraft. And he and I were talking at the 1UP Awards this week, which we should also talk about in a little bit. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm the Warlock class lead for my guild." And I was like, this is the guy who says that the reason impulse buy.
If people, in other companies, impulse buy. We're going to tackle that later as well.
Spoiler.
But does playing WoW for them, does it change the way they approach games? There's a lot of stuff for them to tackle.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
You should get Andrew and some of the rest of the Can't Quit You folks on there too.
Andrew is on.
Oh, you're doing it?
He's there every week.
I suppose I should listen to it before I open my fucking mouth.
Yeah.
Hey,
there you go.
3.5 minutes in, we've had the first Garnet was wrong. We're back.
I don't know. It's just wrong. Just throwing that out there for you. All right.
Yeah, you were wrong.
Where do you want to start?
Well, he's already talking about it. You want to talk to me more about Burning Crusade, or you want to? What else you been up to?
No, I mean, we got final Crackdown at the office finally. Like
Right.
the reviews are done, and we put that story up this week. Just the review scores, some of the stuff from EGM, and it did really well. It got a 9.85 and a 7.5.
Okay, biggest surprise. Who gave it the 9?
John Davison.
No.
Oh, Sharky.
That's right.
Sharky.
okay.
And Sharky hates sandbox games, right?
He plays that game and he smiles.
Wow, he never smiles.
It's unbelievable.
Stunning.
Thing that I've realized this week that I didn't know during the review, because I mean, like when you live with a game for a long time, is that you can go back and revisit Crackdown over and over, and it's still good because there's different ways you can play it. So I've started from the beginning for the 4th time now, and having as much fun with it. So I think this could be something special.
You've got you have it now too, Garnet. You just haven't got around to it.
We
yet.
need a co-op this week.
Yeah, yes, I totally want to co-op on it. I can't wait to get into playing it. Time. This week, brutal.
Yeah, I leveled so fast last night, just firing it up like pretty much 2 stars in like 2-star agility, 2-star strength, 2-star shooting.
And so you were kind of telling me like some of the secret tricks to use, but then I'm kind of like thinking to myself, maybe the first time I want to do it like a virgin run and not like
You want to do it like a virgin?
Like a virgin?
Like a virgin.
well,
that's Shane's life.
No comeback for that.
wow.
I was kind of stunned by that.
What I was telling Garnet
Truth hurts.
was if you want to sort of enjoy the game a little bit more from the outset and get sick of the shitty agent weapons and don't want like the Mexican machine guns, you can go right over to the Volk Island and get like a really good assault rifle and a grenade launcher right from the get-go.
I think the thing for me is that John, who's in now his 4th time, really is genuine about enjoying it. I'm thinking, you know what? I would rather play it the first time not knowing everything and kind of learn the ropes, and then maybe go back and play it like, okay, now I know.
I played it last night, and I wanted to be much more completist about my route through it, because you can ignore a bunch of the game and you just hit the bosses if you want to.
Right.
And I'm going to kill every kingpin and then go to the big guy and then. But I also wanted to boost up as much as I could, so I got my guy up to 4-star strength last night by just refusing to use a gun for the whole I'm like, for the next hour, I'm not going to use a gun. And I just went and you jack the strength up, and he gets like huge.
I saw that you unlocked the beat the shit out of 150 dudes achievement.
Yeah, I did that, and then I got a max out strength achievement. The achievements are really well placed in that when you have, I mean, a lot of Xbox Live games don't do this very well, but in this, when you feel a sense of achievement, it gives you an achievement. And I think there's an art to that the Real-Time World guys have got, in that you go through something and you stumble upon it. If you're not going through the list and go, okay,
Right.
I'm going to get that one now. Just the act of playing the game, when you've done something good, you do get a reward.
If you're screwing
for it.
around and having fun with it, you'll hit some achievements.
Exactly.
So you wrote the story. Tell me about like the 900 versus 1,000 achievement points thing.
Okay, yeah, that's just getting a little bit ahead, but there's...
I was looking, I didn't see it on news.
the game only ships... Crackdown's only shipping with 900 achievement points. The other 100 achievement points, we asked Microsoft, what's the deal? Because the danger is obvious in that you're paying $60 for a game, and there's an expectation now that they've created that you get 1,000 achievement points with a $60 purchase, and this in Crackdown sort of is defying that. Well, the additional 100 points are going to be available as a part of some free downloadable content, not premium downloadable content, which is the stuff you pay for. So the extra 100 points that are going to come out later will be, it'll be part of a download pack. And some people have, joked that maybe it'll be like activate Halo 3 beta and you get 100 points, but that's not the case. And it's a potentially interesting discussion, because like paying for achievement points isn't effectively that's a big part of what you're doing when you buy a live arcade game.
No, that's a sidelight of it. Do you buy an arcade game to play?
What I'm saying-
the achievements?
Well, you don't get a full raft of achievement points anyway.
But you get 200 for like
a maximum of 200
for $5 to $10, right? Pretty much every live arcade game, if I'm not mistaken, has the 200 points built into it.
No, they have it, but you have to go out and earn. You have to play the game and earn them.
Yeah, you have to play the game and earn them. But the notion shouldn't seem so foreign to people of additional downloadable content on top of that 1,000, like costing points at some point. Like they should not be adverse to that, because that's effectively what you're doing when you buy a live arcade game. You're paying money to have an experience, and you're going to get achievement points out of that. If downloadable content for an already existing game is pretty parallel to that.
But what we need, this is something that next week we're going to post the Shivering Isle preview, right? And it's on the One Up Show today. And something about that, it's a 25, 30-hour game that's supplementary to Oblivion.
Yep.
How are they handling achievement points? They're not. Microsoft hasn't addressed this at all. That when you supplement a game on that kind of scale, Am I playing through it for no reward? Am I getting some reward? I mean, is there a rule? Can an expansion have another 1,000 points? Is it another game?
They codified some of this on the Gamerscore blog this week, and some of what came out of that was that each retail experience, each $60 experience has to ship with 1,000 achievement points. And I believe one of the caveats that was in the post is that you can offer downloadable content later for a game that's premium that includes more achievements, but you can't partition off that game's like initial 1,000 points to for.
So something like Knights of the Nine could have had an additional 100 points in it.
Theoretically.
So I think that would be really great. I like the idea of Crackdown having these next hits to bring you back into the game, especially since we all know, I mean, achievement whoring or not, we all know that really does drive people's playtime on the live experience, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's a really cool way to get people to come back to it, especially like, maybe a month and a half from now that they bring out like some pack or whatever, and they can say, hey, we've opened up 50 more points, and people will immediately gravitate to that. The other thought I had was in a game like Crackdown, where it's an emergent world, a lot of stuff to do in the game, they could watch what people are doing, and they could just invent new achievements based off what people were doing in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we've been playing a lot of Crackdown.
A lot of Crackdown.
Hotel Dusk hasn't really. I don't want to read. It's a book.
You know what? See, I'm going to take just the opposite side. I'm playing that every day on the bus. It's like the perfect bus ride game. It like makes the bus ride just disappear. It's awesome. I put on the headphones.
How far are you through it now?
I don't think very far. I'm still. It's broken.
What chapter?
I haven't broken the end of a chapter.
Oh, okay.
And which is funny because my bus ride's half an hour every morning, so obviously there's a fair amount of meat to the game.
Are you playing it very slowly?
Slow reader.
No.
You're just absorbing it.
And it's cool. Matter of fact, I'm playing it mostly not with the stylus after what you told me, and that's even better. It's like totally casual. I'm just kicked back in the bus like this. All right, cool. Tapping on the screen, tapping on the D-pad to advance stuff. Mm-hmm. It's very much just like chilling.
Yeah,
I like it.
Perhaps a little too chill for you, Luke.
So the one game that I've been playing that I've not talked about before was I've been camping out in Milky's office playing Virtua Fighter 5.
I walk by and I'm like, what is this? And I remember, like 5 years ago, I used to play John Davis in Virtua Fighter.
Back in the old days when most of the staff was still back in Chicago, and the San Francisco office was essentially in the game side. It was Sam Kennedy was here, but then it was you and me and Milky and Che, and we were pretty much it for the video game stuff.
Yeah.
The CGW guys were here, but video games it was us. So when a game came in that really kind of got us, it really fucking got us, and we would play Virtua Fighter 4
a lot
every day. And it is when you build up a character and you get all the new accessories and you get to a point where the character is so leveled up that if you do anything stupid, it would punish you and do stupid things. So we would start fucking with each other at night. If anyone went home, whoever went home first, if you didn't take your memory card with you, you would come in the morning and your guy would have like an Eiffel Tower hat on.
Praying mantis head.
Praying mantis head. Shane had this awesome, I think it was, who was your character back then?
Oh man, I had a Lei-Fei, I had back then. Wow.
Probably the big karate dude, what's his name? Akira?
I probably had Akira.
And he came in one morning and he got this guy fantastic record, but he left his memory card. So me and Milky just sabotaged the shit out of this character. And he came in, he had a praying mantis head and a pink outfit and all sorts of shit on. And he was like, "What the fuck have you done to my character?" So we're we're returning to those days now.
It is still just a simmer because the joysticks aren't here yet. When the joysticks come here in a week, then it's officially on. It's going to be like a festival.
Oh, so you have a reprieve then?
I do, and I'm getting back into the rhythm. Like we played, and it's the first time I played Virtua Fighter in years and years. And me and Garnet were playing, and Garnet's a bit of a masher.
Fuck that, dude! I was not mashing at all.
Hang on a minute. What's this noise?
Yeah. Garnet,
that's Garnet playing Virtua Fighter 5.
That's you trying to handle getting knocked out over and over and over.
I will say...
Hold on. What was the record out of that, by the way?
I don't remember.
About 27-1?
I'm not going to deny that you beat me by mashing the fuck out of
I did not mash... Whatever.
Jesus.
But I went back
Hold on. Do I know how to play Pi?
You do, actually. I've played Garnet, and he sounds a little mashy. I think he hits the buttons really hard. I don't know.
He has very big fingers.
He does. He does have some skill. Also in Soul Calibur, I was surprised. I didn't think he'd have any, and he had some. So.
But what I've forgotten with Virtua Fighter is that every character has it's very subtle. Everything has a rhythm and a pace to it, and every character's different. So you have to find your guy that fits your rhythm.
With your natural biorhythms.
Your natural biorhythms.
This game sounds tremendous.
It is. It's tremendous. So me and Brad made a connection.
Brad's kind of one of my guys.
He's my guy too. Well, I like his silky flowing shirt. It's very nice. And
Plays the puffy shirt?
I definitely. So I have a character now that I'm saving and leveling up, but every time I play now, I notice that when you get into the rhythm of how they fight.
Yeah.
And then Milky will bust out Milky Pie and beat the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Pi is very much bob and weave, so you have to watch for that. But you can get through her defense very easily.
This is going to be the game for me that's going to get me turning the PS3 on a lot more.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I totally agree. I was having a blast playing it too. It's fantastic. It's really responsive.
Beautiful. We were playing it on
perfectly.
standard def, and it looks great.
good.
It's the first game on PS3 that looks as good on standard def as it does on high def.
So, what do you think of the football style commentary?
It's so cheesy. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. Too.
I don't
It's
like having it on. I find it distracting, personally.
You're
You're trying to maintain focus.
I am.
Just so
Actually.
everyone knows what we're talking about, Virtua Fighter 5 has a play-by-play, essentially. So along with the sort of girlish squeaks and grunts that everyone makes, there's these two guys that are talking in the background throughout the whole thing.
Oh, that was a staggering blow.
But it's very obviously, Japanese stuff translated into English, and a Japanese idea of what an English-speaking commentator should be like. And it's really lame, but it's hilarious.
It is hilarious, but distracting.
Luke, are we going to be able to drag you into this?
Yeah, I actually have never really got into Virtua Fighter, so I think that it'll be the feel-good story of the year when I start playing and get better than all of you.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't think so.
We'll enjoy ending that.
I'm waiting for the sticks to arrive, though.
Yeah, definite big difference when you get the sticks. Can't believe you freaking trying to call me out as a masher just because I stomped.
Little
God.
you are a little mashy, I will
Call
say.
it like it is.
A little bit.
Whatever.
So I've been playing VF5.
It's tough when you lose.
I've been playing VF5 as usual. I also have been reviewing Ratchet and Clank Size Matters for PSP, which is really good, actually. I think people aren't really excited about it, but it's an original game. It's made for PSP.
And it has Ratchet, because the last one was just Clank. No,
the last one was Ratchet Deadlock, which was kind of more of like a squad.
I was confusing it with the Jack game that was just Daxter.
Right. This is more of a return to like the Ratchet 1 and 2 style. It's very funny, a lot of humor, like zany levels, cool weapons. They rethought the control for PSP. It's very good. Yeah, I think people should definitely check it out if you're looking for a good PSP game.
Is it going to talk to the PS3 game?
No, they're coming out too far apart.
Okay.
But it does have like full infrastructure play and has like some really cool, unique game modes actually that are really funny online. So yeah, that's one.
So it's a lot like 2.
It's most like 2, I find.
So it's less of a shooter then?
It's more, a lot of platforming.
Okay.
It still has the guns and stuff though.
Wow, that might be like a complete must-have for me.
I know.
I really like Ratchet and Clank.
PSP's blowing up. Also, you look on One Up, we have the exclusive preview for the Castlevania Dracula X Chronicles, which is the remake of Rondo of Blood, which is the PC Engine game that no one ever played, which is an amazing game. I love that game. And
Jeremy Parrish claims responsibility for having it brought to North America.
Excuse me.
I was like, what? He's like, oh yeah, I finally went out and ordered the import version, and so
that made it happen.
Right,
That's
that made it
saying.
happen.
Okay.
It's like when you smoke a cigarette and they bring you dinner.
But in addition to that game, which most Castlevania fans have never
Smokers
played,
understand, Luke. Don't worry.
Right. But it also has, Symphony of the Night, kind of a rejiggered version of that, where it's the retranslation. It's actually fitting the PSP screen. They're adding some new content, so it has both of these games, which are amazing games on PSP, coming out this October. Like the graphics taking a few knocks right now. It's not done. It's pre-alpha, so they will look better eventually.
Really, they're saying. I thought they looked, especially for something that's under development, 2.5D on the PSP. I thought they looked solid.
But yeah, the animation definitely isn't final. The effects aren't final. So
well, that type of game, animation frames are something they're continuously adding in there and working on. So I think you.
So, but yeah, I mean, that game is obviously one of my most look forward to games of the year. And the other PSP remake I got to play was Final Fantasy 1 for PSP. I got to check that out the other day, and it's another time to play Final Fantasy 1. How many times you played that game? But they did redo the graphics entirely. It looks very high res. All the art's new. I think I'll play that again. I probably won't get 2 because they're doing that separately, Final Fantasy 1 and Final Fantasy 2. And 2 isn't a very good game, actually. But the price point is going to be somewhere around $20, which is like the right price point for that. So I'm pretty excited.
What character do you give the Masmian to in Final Fantasy 1?
I like to play Final Fantasy 1 with 4 black mages.
Do you really?
Yeah, it's really hard.
And no sword.
That's Zelda. What else am I playing? Or is that it? I think it's probably it right now.
I did a couple other preview games that I just popped in for a little bit. I popped in F1 for PS3, and you started playing that too.
A little bit.
I've played it. I like it because it's so dumbed down because like F1's really hard. Actually,
It has all these driving aids. It'll even
That's what it
steer
is.
for you.
yeah. Well, I like that because otherwise I'd be hitting a wall.
You can play it just holding down X, basically.
Absolutely. Jam the stick forward and away you go. As long as you like start to turn in a little bit, the steering catches.
They were saying in Europe those steering aids aren't on because they understand F1, but for America they're like turn all the steering aids on.
Well, yeah. So you can change them in the settings. What'd you think of it? I mean, the frame rate's really great.
It's got some great effects in it.
The special effects are really, really awesome.
Insane. The lighting's really good.
But the problem I have so far, and I need to play it a lot more, obviously, is that when you turn off the driving effects, I'm not getting any sense of what's happening in the game. And we were talking about this in your office the other day. Not having rumble is showing...
In a racing game, it's really important because you don't get any feedback from, when you're near the edge of the road or there's a lot of things that you take for granted in a racing game which aren't visual and it's not audio. It's just, you just know and it's instinct. And when it's not there, you definitely feel like there's a huge thing missing.
Yeah, it's very hard to feel. It's very hard to feel when you're apexing right and hitting the rumble strip. It's very hard to feel when the car's starting to break loose and get any sort of vibration to it. You just have to completely rely on what you're seeing with no.
You can't feel the rumble strip?
Nope.
Wasn't it called something different then? Doesn't it have to be renamed?
The 6-axis strip, the little painted part of the apex. We'll now call it the 6-axis strip. Anyway, the other game we had in, and this was like an aborted preview for PC because we got copies of Stalker in, of all things in the world.
Is that game set in like
Chernobyl?
Chernobyl.
It is.
That game sounded cool 2 years ago. What happened to that game?
That's one of those games where like a developer has like a really keen idea and they start talking about it and people get caught onto the idea, and the reality is they've bitten off like 10 times more than they can do.
We call that molyneuxing.
So Sean Elliott described it as being kind of like a futuristic Oblivion.
Weird.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Because once you get out in the environment, and so the problem we had, so you'll understand, is that the code is still not optimized enough, and we were having tremendous amount of difficulty getting it to run at all on our machine. So they're sending us some new code. So we shouldn't worry about that. When we got out in the environments, it's wide open. There's lots of people to talk to. There's lots of factions to interact with in this. It's not really post-apocalyptic, but in the Chernobyl zone. If you know the story, there's like been a second accident at Chernobyl, and at least that was originally what it was. Did they keep that part?
I think so.
And so the stalkers are like mercenaries who go into the zone to retrieve tech items and also to go on missions. And there's like different factions and stalkers. There's like a ranking board that you can look up in your PDA. It's cool. They've actually made it now more of a game's. They've added those details that make it more game-like, where you have a PDA that tracks all of the in-game activities. It tracks your stats. It tracks like the active stalker list, so you're kind of like rising up the ranks, almost sort of a mercenary sort of thing, where you're like trying to rise up to be the top stalker.
But it's fundamentally a shooter, right?
It's fundamentally a shooter. I hope that when we get the new code that it runs smoothly and we can really get into it. And
who's publishing it here?
THQ.
Oh, okay.
And speaking of the Oblivionness, the fact that they came in to show Shivering Isle nearly got me to put Oblivion back in, to get back into it.
But not quite.
Not quite. Because we talked about Shivering Isle for the One Up show, and we got the preview going up next week, and there's a lot of stuff going into this add-on, and I'm like, maybe I should go just get into it a little bit again, just to get back into the vibe, so that when Shivering Isle ships, I'm ready. But Shivering Isle sounds like it's going to be really awesome.
So do you think you'll play Shivering Isle?
Yeah.
Okay.
How much is it going to be? Have they said?
They haven't said.
We reported a long time ago that it was $10.
Really?
I heard it was going to be more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think they
that.
probably. I mean, this is Graw add-on and beyond territory potentially.
Well,
this could be the first.
Was recolored maps.
Yeah, but this could be like a $30 download
How much
potentially.
is Ubisoft charging for that Blazing Angels expansion?
No, it's a sequel. They're
really? Okay.
They're actually calling it a sequel.
Never mind. I'm sure it's worth
Whatever it is, it's too much. Okay, I am the designated hater on Blazing Angels this week.
To answer a question, though, that you posed to me about it, I actually got word back from Bethesda on, it is download only, because that is the only mechanism at this point to handle expansions. I asked
it's
about
a
that.
big chunk of game that requires the hard drive.
It would be a huge download. Can you imagine?
Will it fit on the new memory card that's coming out?
You know what,
Jesus
Shane?
Christ, let's do news in segment one.
I don't see how it could. So this is interesting. This is like going to be the first time that there's really a strong segregation line being drawn. If you want to play this, you must have the hard drive.
Might they sell a disc like direct order? You can, if you don't have it, you can order it from them?
At this point they have no plan to do that. They actually want a way to put it in retail, because obviously that would definitely help their sales potentials on it. But the way it was termed to me was there's not a mechanism with the 360 to do that.
It has to install to the hard drive.
God, that Crackdown demo broke Xbox Live. I can't imagine what the Shivering Isles expansion
it's going to be. And imagine how big that thing's going to be. It's 25 to 30% the size of Oblivion physically.
It could be a couple of gig.
It's going to be huge. It's going to be a huge download.
I saw the other game I was playing, which is kind of like not something I would normally play, is Def Jam Icon. I'm reviewing that. I played that all this week.
Oh, yeah, I saw you play that.
I watched you playing that.
Well, yeah, and
I thought that something had happened to your screen. I thought one of the component cables had fallen out or something.
It's very stylized, but I like the visuals. I think it looks very unique and stylized.
You're so urban.
I am very urban.
Well, you see, here's the thing: is Shane never was playing PC games 2 years ago, so he's not accustomed to the way that game looks.
No, it does look. I mean, it's
a new renderware engine. It's a new engine, and it looks.
It has that sort of very PC-like, very polygonal, sharp kind of. It's very different from what a console game normally looks like.
That's true.
Very different.
Well, and because the levels are made up of all these little disparate pieces that have to like break apart and jam to the music, there's something a little not cohesive about the look. But at the same time, like the characters look really amazing, and they use these weird filters and lighting effects, and it all kind of does look cool. The gameplay, there's a really steep learning curve. I think there's a demo coming out next week on Xbox Live, right? I think I heard that, but
Sunday or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's a game where for the first hour you're going to be kind of confused because it's slow. It's paced more like a wrestling game. It's more about throwing people into things. And
a lot
of
emailing in that game as well.
There's a lot of emailing, but
hit me on my hip, man.
It uses the license incredibly well. And if you're a hip hop fan, I think you will appreciate like the depth that they handle with the license.
Cool.
All right, we have fans on our message boards. What the hell have they been talking about this week?
This is one I want to go into next week as well, and I think next week when we go into more depth, we should get Skip on the mic as well. Because Dev518 started the thread. How important is a game score and review to you? Which I will admit that on the second or third page I hijacked a little bit because I think it's something that I really want to get people talking about. And a lot of people approach reviews differently. And what we want to know is, what do you go to when you're looking for game advice? Because what we've heard anecdotally, particularly with things like Hotel Dusk, and I can't say Hotel Dusk without the intonation of Michael Donohoe anymore. Hotel Dusk.
Hotel Dusk.
Things like that and Crackdown. A lot of people have said, well, I haven't read any coverage over it, but when you guys talk about it on the podcast or something, then I take things seriously. So I think the way that people are looking for critical coverage of games is starting to shift, and the media that they want it from is starting to shift. So this is a discussion about how important is having something with a number anymore. And how important is the writing, and how much do you want, and how many opinions do you want, and do you want a review? I mean, do you still take one review seriously, or do you actually need it in context of lots of reviews? Because the sort of consumption of critical content is very different. I mean, the example that I've been giving recently is this weekend our vacuum cleaner broke.
Did you get Dyson? They're very nice.
We did. And
figures.
$500 fucking vacuum cleaner? I need to be seriously convinced to drop that kind of coin.
Did you go check out the Metacritic score on your vacuum cleaner?
No, but what we did, but what this sort of little snapshot of how critical content has changed is we went to Amazon and we looked at the reader reviews on Amazon to see where the overwhelmingly. We did it as well. We were looking at getting Vonage to replace our phone service.
The viral marketers right now are just wetting their pants.
No, but
they're
it's
like, oh, we've got another one.
But you go to
brought to you by Dyson.
But you go to somewhere like CNET and Vonage, and even though all the editorial reviews are positive, the reader reviews are very negative. So increasingly, that you find that more opinions are more important, and I think it's something that we need to be looking at in the way that we're approaching reviews.
Well, I think consumers in general are looking to these aggregated sites for reviews. This didn't used to happen. I mean, Consumer Reports was something we had 10 years ago, but because of the internet when it's happened, I think a lot of people are doing that with all sorts of media and objects like vacuum.
I tell you, Dyson vacuum cleaner, if someone was vacuuming right upstairs right now, we'd all be stuck to the ceiling.
That thing could suck the butt out of a cat.
Yes.
Another piece, though, before we get away from that, another piece that we should get people thinking about before we come back to this next week is length, because I know you feel very strongly about how
and girth also. And excellent.
Is length a big issue for you?
And duration. How do you feel about duration?
Duration, I think.
Dyson vacuum cleaners.
Exactly. So anyway, Dev518, thank you for starting this, and thank you, Xander, Java Mava, the people that have contributed so far with intelligent responses rather than just,
being a douche and getting banned.
Yeah, the dumb shit that we very often get on this subject. So hopefully this thread will retain some integrity as something that we find very useful, and we will discuss it next week.
But now that we've mentioned it on the show, it will turn into a cesspool.
But it's like 50-50 shot at best.
Another thread that hasn't turned into a cesspool, the game literate, Beiji's game literacy thread is now 19 pages long and is still getting some intelligent responses.
It's inspiring.
Okay, Danger Step asks everyone, do you remember when you were a Nintendo fanboy and when did you stop?
That's actually a really good that's a really good question because it's everyone goes through that.
Overwhelmingly is the reason a lot of people stopped being a Nintendo fanboy. The N64 killed it for a lot of people.
That did kill it for a lot of people. I was actually a Sega fanboy.
Here's a thread I really enjoyed. Angry Gay has a thread called One Flame to Rule Them All. And he does lists of the shortcomings of all three platforms. It's done in sort of very tongue-in-cheek, but just goes through and rips all three of them similarly. And it's getting a lot of response. It's a really fun thread. And it's getting people... It's sort of busting open the fanboy paradigm a little bit and getting people just to acknowledge, okay, well, that's wrong about that, and this is wrong about that. And
you're not supposed to be an equal opportunity offender like that.
Exactly. So that's a good thread. Thank you, Angry Gay, and also for having an awesome name. NY State of Mind, I guess, is what his username really means. 23 is the guy that pointed out that Luke is whoring himself out on every podcast in the universe right now.
Talk to Friedenfelds.
Talk to your agent.
007 wants more Skip.
Sorry, that's not available at this time.
Design choice, I think. He retains mystery.
But yeah, every now and then there's on the boards there's a resurgence in Skip love.
He's sort of like the Continuum Transfunctioner.
He is.
What the?
Yes. And then St. Genesius has, what makes you stop gaming for a while? Which is kind of interesting because
I banned some people in this thread.
There was some interesting stuff because some people was like, well, you know, if there isn't a game or I run out of money, and then it got into some sort of just like other things in your life stuff.
I mean, I always have games. Like my pile of shame is 100 feet tall, so there's
always something to return.
Always something to play.
But I mean, have any of you ever had a point in your life where you just sort of stopped doing it for a while?
Yeah,
I mean,
when I started here.
When you started here, your job got in the way.
Yeah.
Your job writing about video games got in the way of your enjoyment of video games. That's unfortunate.
I do feel that a lot of people who post on boards, like they spend a lot of time arguing about games, and they need to spend more time playing them because you don't really know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's definitely a case of people talking about games a lot more than anything else to do with the pastime.
Yeah.
There's like two parts to that for me. There was a point in my mid-20s when I had a very, very, very grueling job and literally had no time to play games, and I hated that. And that was one of the reasons I got out of that. And then there's another point where just having played a lot of games, I started to get jaded. And I think one of the things that it always stands out for me about how I broke out of that is to start finishing some games. Because I got to that point where you're just like consuming bits and pieces of games all the time, and you get into that, what's the next thing? Well, what's the next thing? Well, what's the next thing? But you're never getting that satisfaction of actually getting the whole game and playing through to the end. So if you ever get jaded like that, there's something to try. Finish a game. Have fun with it.
There's a tip.
There's a tip.
Pro tip from Garnet Lee.
Hey, Luke, you should write that one down.
Yeah.
All right, this is the One Up Yours podcast, and we're going to be right back in just a minute with the 4-minute warning, so get ready and stick around.
You're listening to One Up Yours, part of the One Up Radio Network.
Want more Extreme Tech? Well, now you can join the crew of expert analysts for a weekly podcast. They'll give you the lowdown on the latest technology news, product reviews, and let you know what's coming up. Just go to extremetech.com to subscribe.
All right, and we're back, ready to hit it. 4-minute warning, questions from boards.oneup.com, and we're ready to go with Red Swirl up first. Here's his question. We're facing a drought of new Wii games right now. I'll admit that the system is just 2 months old, but is the Wii getting GameCubed? You guys even said in the last episode that according to Shane, Wii gamers will be getting the lower end of the deal here if things play out like we think they will, with PS2 lasting a while and new games, and many of those new games getting crappy Wii ports. Is the Wii going to be the system of sloppy seconds?
Yeah, well, I mean, I want to ask Shane a few questions.
Okay.
Shane, how many first-party games did Microsoft ship last year?
3.
How many first-party games is Nintendo shipping this year?
About 8 or to 10.
Really?
Yeah, you want me to name them?
Like, yeah, please do.
Super Paper Mario, Metroid Prime 300, Super Mario Strikers, Mario, what's it called, Galaxy, there's more, Battalion Wars 2, Super Smash Brothers Melee, there's more.
Corruption.
I already said that one. Disaster Day of Crisis, Hammer, Project Hammer. That's like 7 right there. Shut the fuck up.
Project Hammer is going to exist?
It is.
Are they all this year?
They are. I mean, there's going to be a lot of sloppy seconds. We're already seeing it. The Godfathers, the Scarfaces, the Prince of Persias. But people like EA are making original titles. We saw Konami announce a new original title yesterday, Dewey's Adventure, and a new DDR. So it's going to be sloppy seconds, but Nintendo's there to pick up the slack. They're not Microsoft. They're not going to ship 3 games, one of which is 99 Nights. So
does that 99 Nights actually count?
I'm not even sure if it counts.
But of those you just rattled off, aren't only Galaxy, Smash Brothers, and Paper Mario have any kind of date against them?
That's true. Nintendo won't tell us anything. And there's probably more games, like the Wii Fitness game that we hear is going to be the big game this year. No one knows when that comes out. Oh, there's also Big Brain Academy. That's already out.
Yeah,
and Mario Party 8. Nintendo's probably shipping like 12 games this year. Nintendo is an incredible first party. They're the first party to beat. It's the third parties we're worried about here.
Yeah.
So let me change the question to you then. What makes it such a big negative that the PS2, which is a huge system, has big installed base, and will drive a lot of development, makes it easy for someone to take that game and put it on Wii?
Well, because the game isn't made for Wii. We've already seen, look at Call of Duty 3. Do you want that on Wii? No. And if people really to tackle these games and give them cool control that's thought out, but are they going to do that? No, they're going to just push it on.
Why do you make that assumption? Why do you make the assumption that they're not going to do that? You've seen so far.
Go play some Ubisoft games on Wii.
That's getting lumped in with the PSP stuff as well, which is kind of unfortunate.
We're already seeing ads. Like, there's an ad in the new EGM. It's like half the ad is Prince of Persia Wii, half the ad is Prince of Persia PSP, and it's the same game. It's like, oh, interesting.
The reason I'm challenging it is because if that's a way that they can fund some of the development, what's to stop them from doing the extra work?
Well, nothing's to stop them. But why spend the money? Why get a whole new team to rethink the game when you can just port it over?
I don't think you have to, but wouldn't some of those games be able to use Wii controls if they were thought out, if someone put the effort into them? What I'm saying is, so here's
definitely.
PS2, right? And so the basic game engine is in there, the basic graphics and assets and all that part, like a huge chunk of it is done.
Yeah, I'm not writing off all these games. It's quite possible that The Godfather on Wii is the best version of Godfather, and when you garrote people with the nunchuck, it's super fun, and you're like, wow, this is the way Godfather should have always been made, but I'm just kind of being skeptical about this.
We're not going to see that stuff until there are just a fuck ton of Wiis out there, and it's worth their while. But until while the install base is 1 million, 2 million, whatever, it's just they're just going to shovel stuff over.
And also, Nintendo has very little quality control with third party. Almost anything comes out. You see games like Charlie's Angels that can never get through Microsoft or Sony approval coming out on GameCube because Nintendo, they just don't give a fuck.
So it's bizarre because they used to give so much of a fuck.
Yeah, the Nintendo's seal of quality used to mean something. Maybe, or maybe it never did.
Well, at least there was a stringent process that things had to, whether you agreed with the outcome or not, there was at least the illusion that there was this filter in place.
It seems like they're asleep at the wheel at third party approvals at Nintendo.
What do you think the outcome of that's going to be long term for the Wii?
Hard to say.
Same $15 million they had with the GameCube.
All right.
Next.
Tolkoto asks us, with the DS doing as well as it is there even a need for a DS2 anytime soon? If yes, when do you think we'll see it, and what will it be like? That's an interesting question because not that long ago we were even thinking, wow, they're going to have to come up with a new replacement.
They're just going to iterate, and there's not going to be a DS2. There's going to be whatever the next DS Lite kind of iteration is.
Already heard rumors of a thinner DS Lite.
Bigger
screens.
LED backlighting, I think, is the next thing we're going to see, where it's like really efficient, much brighter, much better battery life. There's going to be all this before upgrade. I mean, how long was essentially the Game Boy and then Game Boy Advance technology the standard?
Right, and as long as DS Lite continues to sell out, why announce a sequel? Whereas Sony, on the other hand, it might behoove them to later this year announce the next PlayStation Portable, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see that.
And what would you think that would be like?
More like the DS. Yeah. Also, it won't have UMDs. It'll be like download only games possibly. That's what I'm thinking.
So if they go download only games, doesn't have UMD or anything like that, which one of these platforms, if either of them is getting remotely close to being something that'd be like a device, cell phone, PDA?
Well, we've heard all kinds of things happening. I mean, Apple showed the iPhone, and we heard yesterday there were a lot of rumors kicking around that the next iteration of the Zune was going to be a phone.
Right.
And the next thing beyond that is, they're going to start with casual games and go beyond. But, I mean, do you really need one device that does everything? I mean, you're into that. It's a different argument. I like the DS because that's what I play games on. I don't want to be interrupted on the same device when I'm playing Hotel Dusk with it ringing and I'm having to talk to somebody.
But the problem with the DS and the Wii is Nintendo's putting the brakes on technology, and because of this, we're kind of stuck with this N64 quality graphics almost on the DS. How long are we gonna be stuck with this?
But we were stuck with Game Boy technology for a long
time.
And there's still games coming out for it. Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah. Exactly.
So the same reality is that cock-blocked the whole convergence device in your home theater is going to stop it on handheld devices.
But I don't think you need crazy graphics on a handheld or, insane sound technology or anything. It just needs to be,
But you're going to want individual pieces, is what I'm saying. You don't want just one box, and you just don't want one thing.
I don't think I really care. What I want is something where the battery lasts a very long time, and it's easy to get the games, and it's pretty cheap, and it's pretty durable, and and the DS Lite is nearly there on that front. I mean, the battery life on the Lite is crazy. It's like, 10 hours or something?
Good. So, no DS2, DS iterated on, continuing to improve, technology getting old. Rising Sun Tzu asks us, I'd really like to know
Are we not adhering to the time thing now?
No.
How long was that?
That's 2 minutes.
You want us to go a bit longer?
I think
Sometimes 2 minutes is all you need.
Yeah, I think
that's what she said.
I think we finished that one off. Rising Sun Tzu says, I'd really like to know more about the rumor mill in the games industry, where ideas like DS2 and PSP2 obviously come from. You just threw that one out there. Who leaks these stories? How credible are they? They're coming from Shane, not at all, obviously. Do you always believe a rumor if it's on a site like Kotaku because they have a good track record? And I'd also like to know which one of these were the craziest rumors you guys have heard in your career and which ones fooled you completely.
There's like 16 questions.
I know.
in there.
This one will fill 4 minutes. Okay, I have a good
We
one.
go 6 on this one.
One that when it was leaking from different places, and I was starting to think like there might be something here, and it's gonna. I don't know if it ever actually came out, but Microsoft buying Nintendo. That one, I know there was a lot of fanboy background noise on that one, but that, as far as I know, had some credibility.
Really? That's amazing.
I also heard, related to that they pitched an offer for SCEA.
Now, so then to continue, who leaks these stories? Like
These things open the checkbook and you'll hear like something that'll come from, not directly from an analyst, but from an analyst's office or someone that was talking to an analyst, or there'll be someone that's, not in PR, but is around, or is like maybe a contract. These things, they come from places where it's never direct. It's always, I heard when I was talking to this guy that it's all a bit,
there's a lot of scuttlebutt in this industry.
But then in the fight, you start looking at the other thing that confuses things is, I mean, we butt up against this at the time. The analysts, there's a difference between this is happening and this is what we think should happen. And then the Chinese whispers in the games industry, where if an analyst will say, what should happen is that Microsoft should stop fucking around trying to build it itself and just go buy Sony Computer Entertainment and just like kill it all outright. That'll morph into Microsoft made an offer on Sony Computer Entertainment, which would then turns into, Microsoft was going to buy Sony.
Right. Or, I hear other legendary things like, I know somebody who played Virtua Fighter 3 for N64, that kind of thing. Or, the famous story of Microsoft passed on GTA 3. That is true. That was in Dean Takashi's book. And in EGM, our rumor mill is one of the more respected ones on the internet, and it gets a lot of talk, and a lot of times it's true. And we hear that stuff from various sources. I'm not Quarterman. I know Quarterman. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, I'd say more than half the time, we are right. And a lot of times we're right when we print it, but then it never happens, And things get canceled.
The Quarterman is like sushi used to be, in that it is a mantle that is passed from person to person. I was Quarterman for a while.
Really?
Yeah.
I think
in the old days.
Part of it is that these rumors, when they come out there, sometimes there's just a little bit of smoke, and they gain momentum, and they actually gain momentum with the potential players. So, if you're talking about a rumor, for instance, of Microsoft buying SCEA, maybe it's not out there at first, but then that starts the people at Microsoft thinking.
And to that one, Microsoft would never have bought SCEA. If they were going to go, they'd go after Sony Computer Entertainment. Right. Which, I mean, who knows if they said, hey, you know what, you guys are in trouble, you didn't make any money, you did a lot of loss. Let's just stop this petty squabbling once and for all. And there might have been some posturing at one point, or someone might have said in a meeting, hey, that strategically would probably make sense. But it turns into a rumor that it is going to happen. What's most likely is that at some point, somebody probably did have the conversation about, hey, if we were just going to just go for this thing, what would we do? Strategically, what would be number one on our list? And you've got to think that Microsoft had that conversation. Like, in America, Nintendo and Microsoft are across the street from each other, for God's sake. Be like, let's stop fucking around. There was the whole thing like, what became the Wii was going to essentially be a box that was the same as the Xbox, and it was going to be an alliance where it was Windows-derived, same technology, same hardware, the software skills from Nintendo, the hardware and back-end skills from Microsoft, and it would be the two companies continuing to exist, but doing what they do best. And you start floating ideas like that, and you're like, that could work.
Microsoft buying Rare from Nintendo, that's probably the ultimate outcome of like that's what that funneled into, you know?
The other one that got me was, and we talked about this a lot last year, World of Warcraft PS3. I thought that was going to happen.
I think a lot of us thought that was going to happen.
But it was, I don't think there was anything to it ever, was there?
Well, it's what Jeff Kaplan said a couple weeks ago. It doesn't translate. It doesn't translate to the console.
We've heard that the console holders want it. Obviously,
Oh yeah, and Blizzard should want it there because the game prints money. But it's just.
But when we were hearing that Phil Harrison was going to have this humdinger of an announcement, it was going to be the game to end all games that would convince you that the PS3 was going to be the shit online.
I'm still waiting for that.
People were talking. That was the talk.
But it was at the time there was nothing. There's still nothing more powerful as an online game to establish that your console is online friendly.
Right, and since then we heard that Microsoft was courting it, like really wanted it bad.
Yeah.
But it's not happening. They're not biting. So
these are those cases where we're looking at stuff and having been in the business long enough, we make natural conclusions of wow, these would be great fits together. And sometimes they come true because they gets people thinking about it. And other times they're just natural assumptions that just don't come out. And then we talk about these, and I don't even know if they count as rumors. Does something like, Metal Gear Solid 4 is going to be on 360, is that really a rumor, or is that just someone saying...
It's sort of just logical fact.
Right, exactly.
It's sort of just an inevitability.
But there's a difference between speculation and when there is a grain of truth. Like, usually, for something to get in rumor mill, it's not just us, wouldn't that be neat if Mario fought Sonic? No, we actually talk to somebody, and someone's talking about this somewhere, and there's truth to it.
But not someone's talking about it somewhere like you heard it at the BART station.
Like a PR person or producer or a designer, someone who in the know who's really involved with this stuff.
The guy that one we did fill 4 minutes.
Did.
That one actually had plenty of 4 minutes. So a lot of those things come out of conversations we have. Fumero asks, how are the developers and publishers treating you differently this year in terms of demonstrations and previews as opposed to the E3 years? Are there more or less things that you've been shown but can't talk about until some specific date?
The timing is definitely screwing everything up. E3 being in July, that makes it weird because we're used to this schedule where in May you have a reveal, you have so many months to turn up till November, but now everything's fucked up, and E3 itself is going to be a huge disaster, unmitigated disaster. Everyone I'm hearing that from.
Yeah, for us it's going to be about talking to people, but I'm not sure because that May milestone in development is set so early in the schedule that there's probably a lot of games that still have that May milestone, and they're, now guys, you have another couple of months, so off you go, and then it's going to be like, well, we pulled it apart again, and there's nothing to show, and so you go back to the old days of CES where it's some guy sat down showing you wireframes, and well, imagine what this is going to be like.
I've had people come in and here's our character design piece of paper. It's all we have right now. It's gonna be great.
Look at this guy. Thanks. He has this robotic thing growing out of his arm and a big thing that he throws, and it's going to be all walls. Yes, and it's all very generic, but
it's coming exclusively to the PS3
until we do the 360 version 6 months later.
But I think for the end users, for you guys out there, E3 is going to be very different. Like the coverage you're seeing is not going to be what you're used to seeing. It is not going to be a big deal. Like last year there were 60,000 people. This year there are 3,000 people attending E3.
I think the outcome's going to be a bit more like when we go to DICE or GDC. It's going to be very people-oriented. It's going to be much more visionary. It's going to be sitting down with developers and saying, where do you see this going? What are you doing? What are you trying to do with this game?
It could be more interesting for us to cover, but it's not going to be.
Well, but in some ways it isn't changing. Like the big press conferences we're used to, like the Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony, those are still going to happen the way they always have.
Yeah.
So it's still a platform for them to show their wares.
But to get back to his question, I think one of the things that we are going to see is a lower volume of games, and that is affecting what we're seeing and when we're seeing it. I think there's going to be overall less games, but those fewer games, I think there's going to be hopefully
deeper.
Less to complain about.
Yeah.
Well, you noted that these games have all had the May milestone in there, and I don't know that that's necessarily going to change because that's still a very good time, especially with Christmas releases, to get information out there, to give another press tour.
Right, it's like you're 6 months out, where are you?
Well, so maybe everyone will just have a press event in May.
And I think that's ultimately, it's not necessarily even going to be E3, and that's going to be what actually rips apart whatever is left of E3, that's what's going to be rips it apart, because there are going to be companies even this year that aren't participating in the Santa Monica event that are going to be wanting to do other press tours like a week before, a week after, 2 weeks after, and it's just going to eventually it's just going to filter out into a midsummer series of, okay, we're going to go talk to this developer.
What I hope with the way they talk to us is that we have more surprises spread out over more time rather than just bang, 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 bang. Here's all the stuff that you got to talk about.
I mean, that's where I was heading, and I think it's actually going to work out better because people are going to have, every game is going to have its chance to have a moment in the sun and enjoy it, and you're going to get more information. There's going to be more details.
great for a monthly magazine because then putting something on the cover is going to mean something again.
It is better, but also moving forward, I've heard rumor that if this E3 goes off as poorly as everyone's expecting it to, it will be the last E3.
Yeah.
So. Well, it should be the last E3. I mean, really, if you're not going to do what we were doing, I don't see how this collective of press meetings makes any difference over just letting the developers and publishers do their thing individually.
You should go to the 3 platform holders having their own events and inviting their third parties to come in.
That's what,
kind of like Exo6. Yeah,
exactly. That's how the 3 platform holders should handle the events for the summer. Stuff like if everyone has an event and it doesn't, it'd be way more convenient. And an event like Exo6 was, Andrew and I were there, just a well organized event where it's just very focused and you move from meeting to meeting and you get a lot of information out of it, and it was way more productive than the sweaty heathens at the Nintendo booth.
So there's no more or less things that we've been shown that we can't talk about because there's the same number of products in the pipeline, but what's going to happen is they're going to be spaced out better. You're going to wind up seeing more coverage that has more time to breathe and not have so much stuff that gets missed and overlooked. And that right there is 4 minutes if we weren't already there. Silly Mo Boy?
Silly Emo Boy.
Silly Emo Boy.
Is that you?
Oh, yeah. No,
is that your nickname?
I'm not into the emo, so I missed that one. Nearly a year after the infamous horse armor microtransactions, what is the state of microtransactions?
Well, you know what? The horse armor's not in the PS3 version of Oblivion.
What?
Yeah.
Boycott. Actually, I was reading about it in Japan.
Potentially not.
In Japan, some games are going microtransaction crazy. There's this aquarium game where it's called Aquazone. It's a screensaver with fish, and the fish are 580 points each. So you can spend up to $50 on fish to fill your aquarium. I thought that was pretty great.
Wow.
Well, and it's different. You brought up the other side of the world. In Korea, there are MMOs that are the actual base client is free, and then the way they make their money is they microtransaction the hell out of everything else. Like if you want to customize your character, if you want to improve your abilities, if you want to open up new areas to play in. So that's a whole other experience world, though.
Well, and on the PlayStation 3 network, you haven't seen much about microtransactions yet, but they're coming. I've heard that Gran Turismo HD is going to have some serious microtransactions soon, and that Warhawk is going to be microtransaction universe. You're ready to spend all your money.
Buy this gun.
Almost like microtransactions only.
Maybe kind of like that, yeah. Could be.
Well, if you didn't take home a disc, that would be one way to get it in various pieces.
Yeah. So what do you?
Very quiet.
Yeah, you're very quiet, Luke.
Yeah,
you used to have a lot of excitement about this
felt
topic.
Sort of like microtransactions. We haven't seen any major infractions of late. EA has sort of.
Well, your predictions for 2007. One of them was that you thought that Microsoft was going to set some standards for it, right?
Yeah, I still think that Microsoft is going to standardize that a little bit more than they have, even if it's a matter of continuing to standardize the way that the live arcade games, they have 2 or 3 price tiers for it. You're going to see that price tier system, I think, remodified to apply to microtransactions in general, where and they already have distinguished, like we talked about earlier in the show, between premium downloadable content and free downloadable content. Well, what premium and free can and should entail, I think, is going to be codified further, and I'm hoping that when that'll probably all surfaces around Game Fest, that's when they gather all those developers together to talk and set some new rules. Because last year they talked about the 30-90 rule, which when we talked to the Crackdown guys earlier this week, and we were talking about downloadable content for Crackdown, they were like, well, it'll be shortly after release. And I said, yeah, 30 days after and 90 days after and day one, and they sort of looked sheepish, and I was like, yeah, well, you're a Microsoft. You're a Microsoft.
It's how did you learn that secret?
You have to publish under their schedule. And so I hope that in the microtransaction space, you're going to see it evolve into a very set formula where you sort of have an expectation of what you're going to be getting and how much you're going to be investing in a game post-release.
So we were angry for a while, especially at the very beginning, that they were basically playing economics guinea pigs with people in microtransactions. How close to the end of that do you think we are?
Oh, I don't necessarily think that I think we're about to enter the second age of it with sort of the virtual console, and if there's a new games channel that's been talked about on the Wii, and then how whatever Sony's going to end up doing with their microtransaction system. You're going to see that frontier expand from Microsoft's Wild Wild West to the entire.
I think
climate.
they've been testing what people will tolerate. When we talked to Chip Lang at CES, and he was like, "Yeah, the big thing that they discovered is you can't charge people to unlock things they already own. That sort of unlocking notion, which you would have thought someone in the meeting would have raised their hand and said, "Wait, didn't I already buy this?" But they are beta testing this stuff publicly. But I mean, I think isn't the Rainbow Six Vegas download pack, the player pack, gonna hit soon?
Comes out in March.
How much is that?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully Ubisoft learned from what they did with Graw and have applied that to Rainbow Six.
Well, what they learned with Graw was that they could be one of the 3 pieces of downloadable content last year that made more than $1 million in revenue. So far as like what you think Ubisoft learned, they learned that you guys will bend over and open up and take
So
it.
there's my concern is if we get back, if people like EA dial back a little bit and the popular opinion turns back to positive on microtransactions and they start to take off again, that the publishers think it's open season and hit again with the prices.
Cue the "it's rape time" gif.
Yeah, that would suck.
It's something that you ultimately can't really get too passive about. It's something you have to sort of keep watching. And I think that Microsoft's being more responsible, even with what we talked about at the head of the show, with the dangers of the missing 100 points in Crackdown. They were very swift to address that, and they want to try and control that because that's a space where they know that they
need the control. Just because if there wasn't a manufacturer suggested retail price for a boxed game, who's to think that like Grand Theft Auto or something like that wouldn't be $100?
Or Halo 3. Oh wait,
it is
100.
Wait, you got beeped about a minute ago.
All right. So it's number 6 from Braz. Also talking about very successful games. In the wake of the success of World of Warcraft, we've seen the announcement of several major MMOs. Do you think the market can support another WoW-scale MMO success, or will Blizzard continue to dominate? Are MMOs the future of gaming, or just another genre?
Luke Smith.
I don't think that the market for MMOs can take something else on with the weight of World of Warcraft. You're just not going to see a subscriber. You're not going to see an MMO with a subscriber base to equal what World of Warcraft has in North America or worldwide. It's not going to happen. The market can't sustain it at all. Do I think that there will be other successful MMOs? Absolutely. It'll probably be an IP-based MMO, like something that's like not like a Marvel IP. It'll be like a more powerful IP than that. That'll be like the next great successful MMO.
Like Star Wars.
Done properly. Like a Star Wars done properly is the sort of that's the sort of caliber that we're talking about with
there was that Matrix one. That was awesome.
Well, like Midway and Turbine are doing Lord of the Rings, which comes out in March. I'm not saying the game is better or worse. I haven't played it, but I am impressed by this thing I have where you can spend $200 up front and do a lifetime subscription instead of paying $15 a month. Well, I would like to see Blizzard adopt that mentality.
But there's a couple
kind of the TiVo model.
There's a couple things that they're doing now. Like if you pre-order that game, I believe that you pre-order it and then you can keep your character from your beta. They'll roll your character over to live, at which point then if you enjoyed it in beta and you know that you want to keep playing, and you can okay, well maybe I'll play this for 17 months.
Is that a new concept?
Well, it's I don't know if it's a new concept. It's a new concept when you can couple it with a lifetime subscription. I mean, if people really like that universe and want to be a part of that universe for their foreseeable future, it's a great way of saying, okay, I've invested this time in my beta character, now it's rolled over to live, and I'll pay you $200 and I can play a game for as long as it lives. Will that MMO though last for whatever $200 divided by 15?
That's the gamble.
And it's like, I don't know. I don't know.
Whereas if Blizzard did that with say their next MMO, you kind of know, based on their legacy, that it's worth it.
Are MMOs the future of gaming, or just
no? But so look, WoW is a really, really unique animal because it parlayed this tremendous amount of gamer. Not just general popularity, but gamer popularity and love for the franchise into something that they could translate and do every day with their friends, with other people, and share across the internet, right? Lord of the Rings is a movie franchise, so it's not necessarily all those gamers. And even Dungeons and Dragons, which has like a huge number of people who play games, also didn't succeed like this. It was a very unique coming together of passion from people and the right vehicle for them to express it and get in there and share it all the time.
So you're saying like no one besides Blizzard could probably replicate that success?
I think that there's very few people who could replicate that sort of success.
There's very few franchises and IPs that can replicate the success of taking gamers and introducing them to an entirely foreign concept, which is what World of Warcraft is for a lot of gamers. It's their first MMO. It's their first...
Second Life is handling it in a different way, and there's other experiences, but...
What if Nintendo really went to town with Pokemon? I mean, Pokemon is over 10 million players worldwide. It's already the best-selling DS game.
If there was general, like a huge Pokemon world where you could capture your Pokemons and go in battle, sky's the limit.
It could be colossal, but of course, Nintendo would be all friend codes and be like bullshit.
But then it involves Nintendo and online, which I guess don't really go together.
But in general, I think like in any entertainment, you'll see the pendulum swing, back and forth. So MMOs obviously swinging very hard, still positively. People trying to copy WoW, trying to capture that success. You will see, I think, that swing back to more traditional sorts of adventure games and.
I think we're ignoring some games here that are doing. I mean, isn't the true Neopets game, pretty much what you just described.
You mean the Scientology-funded pyramid scheme for children? It's huge.
But I mean, it's there. Because it doesn't fit into our perception of the where we fit WoW into what we think about. There are other experiences like Second Life and like Neopets, which are massively multiplayer experiences. There's that Disney thing as well.
That's huge, actually.
Like
this little community, like Happy Town or something like that. Yeah, like.
There's all these things that are going on that are proving that the idea of pulling a lot of people together and sharing an experience works. And then there are the different strata underneath what we think of as, like EVE Online is very different from WoW, and people are defining the narrative there. And
one thing we haven't hit also, I don't know that it's going to be Huxley, but someone's going to get first-person shooter in a massive environment right, and just take this for a moment to go away with.
I like how our host thinks he's above the law.
Massively multiplayer Half-Life.
Yeah.
Nah.
I think you can have as many people as you want to play that. Okay, so we got a bonus question. Just a quick hitter. What superpower do you have, and what superpower do you want to have?
Shane, I want to know about your superpowers.
I have some powerful spin abilities, but I would like to be able to teleport. I think that'd be great. I'd teleport all over the place. It'd be fantastic.
What's yours?
What's my superpower?
Yeah.
Terrific stamina.
Oh, I thought it was girth.
Well, is that a superpower?
Can be. What do you want to have?
Baby's arm holding an apple?
What do I want to have? I'd like to fly. I think I'd like to fly. Yeah. But you?
I'm looking at
You're looking at me. Deception would be my superpower.
How about eternal youth?
Okay. You think so? And then what superpower?
I'm not saying you have that. I'm saying you'd want to have that.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah. I appreciate that. Lightning reflexes.
Yeah. Then you wanted to mash buttons so much.
Well,
I was gonna say
It's a softball pitch. I had to give that to somebody.
I don't know. The superpower that I'd want to have would be whatever. I would want the Jean Grey ability, the telekinesis. I think that'd be pretty. She's pretty much God. My superpower. I don't.
You have a lot of powers.
Probably manipulation.
Which is what he'll be doing in just a minute when we get back for the news. Stick around. The One Up Yours podcast will be right back.
Want to know what's new now? Then join Jim Louderback and Patrick Norton as they tackle the latest technology news. They'll keep you informed with their weekly What's New Now podcast. Just go to what'snewnow.com and subscribe, or subscribe through iTunes.
You are listening to One Up Yours on the One Up Radio Network.
All right, I'd say it was a spin-free zone, but Shane's here, so who knows what the hell's going to happen as Luke hits the news. Take it away, Luke.
Are you ready, Shane?
Are you ready? Sit and spin.
I don't.
No.
I think it's self-referential when she
And the
says
first
that.
one you have here is even a game that allegedly is still only a PS3 game.
Yeah,
right?
it's allegedly a PS3 game. Electronic Arts will be publishing Mercenaries 2, the Pandemic Studios effort. It's part of that.
Call it an effort. That sounds derogatory. It looks very good.
It's a sequel to the million-plus selling breakout hit.
One of the best new IPs of last gen.
I know. Which for some
Mercenaries.
reason, LucasArts decided they didn't want the sequel for.
They're only making popular games now, right?
Oh, right. They're mainstream.
Right.
Dude, Mercenaries
Yeah.
was one of my favorite games.
It was
I
awesome.
really, really liked
So
Mercenaries.
yeah, it's only coming to the PS3, just like Assassin's Creed and Unreal Tournament 3.
Well, I mean,
Exactly.
the controversy is, like, initially there was once an Xbox 360 logo on some website or something.
There was like a video of the guys at Pandemic with 360s at their desks, with 360 controllers at their desks, while they're making Mercenaries.
See, here's the good news is
that's the origin.
EA has no idea how to do multi-platform releases and make money Need for Speed.
Yeah,
and
they never
So
do
they're
that.
not going to do that.
So it's just going to be PS3 exclusive.
Same as, you
But
know,
I do think it may be a timed exclusive. I mean, I think in 2007 you might not see it on Xbox 360.
You ready for Mercenaries 2, the PSP version, Mercenaries 2, the DS version, Mercenaries 2, the cell phone version?
has EA done any platform exclusives? No, it's always blown everything out in one
The
go.
Oddworld Stranger ended up being a Xbox exclusive. They abandoned the PS2 version.
Right, but that was not by design. That was by, let's just get the fucking thing out of
Yeah, they
here
just
and
need to
ignore
get it
it.
out the door.
I mean,
Well,
that
that's
was the
'cause they
most mismanaged game launch that EA has probably ever done.
Such a cool game. And they could never get it running right on PS2, right?
Right. It just wasn't running the right. But we'll see.
Susan O'Connor, one of the writers behind BioShock and Gears of War, had a lengthy interview with Gamasutra this week and talks about the subject of writing the same, quote, orcs and aliens script over and over again. I think so much of game development is so self-referential. Is it going to be orcs or aliens? Sometimes I look at a lineup of the top 10 games and top 10 movies and top 10 and just look at the insane variety of content you get everywhere else. Please, can we start doing this in games? For example, with Psychonauts. Everyone loved it, but it didn't sell well, and I don't know why. And I don't know if games just continue to market to a certain segment of our society, and therefore they're the only one who think about buying the games. It's sort of that whole bald space marine mess.
The whole idea that you can look at almost any popular game and either be, are you ripping off Aliens, The Matrix, Star Wars, or Lord of the Rings? And I'm not kidding.
Right. This is the Cliffy B interacting with people by shooting argument.
Well, and the Gears of War doesn't have archetypes in it argument that he made.
Yeah, right.
Or stereotypes. Really? David Jaffe lost his mind during the playtest.
This was hilarious.
Oh, it was awesome.
I'm not used to seeing calling out cars when it's an acronym. It's COCK. It says, this piece of paper says Jaffe Cock Playtest Blog.
CAC. Loves the CAC.
Whereas Shane obviously loves something else.
At David Jaffe's blog, he sort of rants and raves about watching. Sounds like watching a bunch of special people.
That one's drooling.
Some differently abled fellows.
The kind of people who sign up for beta
tests. Calling, talking to Kellen, and this is from Jaffe's blog. Talking to Kellen, and he feels we need to announce to the players that the game is a downloadable title on the PS Store to sell between $5 and $10. Otherwise, we're getting feedback from these folks where they go in feeling like they're playing a game that can, in scope, be compared to Halo 3 and God of War 2. And when they get calling all cars, there's a knee jerk of like, this is too small of a game to pay $60 for. And then when you tell them at the end it's a download game, and they get it because they've already they get it, but they've already had that negative impulse. Jaffe continues to go onward and sort of freaks out with his stream of consciousness.
Sort of.
Moving to split screen. Man, tester number 5 is a fucking dolt. What the hell? He's just driving in circles. He's not even playing the game. Is that fucking spit drilling out of his stupid fucking mouth? Well, anyway, smiley face.
SCEA, they have to love Jaffe.
The best part of this is you could just picture Jaffe on one side of a one-way mirror watching these people, like, literally doing exactly that.
Have you ever done one of those, like been in a focus group and been watching people that are picking apart a product that you're working on? We did it for some magazine launches, and you hear these people talking, and like you do. I mean, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Why don't you understand? I mean, you get so angry listening to people because you want them to. You want them to get exactly what your idea was,
and you put a lot into it.
So your initial reaction is always, you should understand. It's obvious. Surely you should get it. So, I mean, I got to sympathize with him a little bit that watching someone play your game wrong has got to be so frustrating.
Someone's just driving around in a circle.
Having played the game, it's super easy.
It's like NBA Jam.
Your children are going to be able to play it. They're going to get it if you turn your PS3
But I do want to give Jaffe props. His blog was really funny, and I enjoy the transparency that he allows himself to have as a game designer. It's very refreshing.
Yeah.
Why isn't Final Fantasy XI on the Wii?
Friend codes.
Yeah, Square Enix in a new report says that they don't like the friend codes essentially because Nintendo's restriction.
It's totally keeping child predators from kidnapping children like they do on Xbox Live Final Fantasy 7.
Final Fantasy 11.
That's what I meant.
Uh-oh. What just happened there?
Although I will say,
it's been tough for him since he turned 30. I mean,
I am old, but I'm going to throw you 360 fan Luke a bone. I think you should look for a new.
And he's desperately going to try and get away from that as quickly as possible. He's like, I got to distance myself from that.
Maybe you should look for a new cross-platform original IP from Square Enix soon.
Ooh. Is it going to use the Unreal Engine?
No.
White?
No.
You know too? You know this already?
I know bits, but...
Well, let's go back to enough about Microsoft. Let's talk about Sony. Shane, you like Nintendo and you like Sony. I think that
I like everything.
You like it all equally.
It really shows.
The Wii. This is your boy Sony. The Wii's nothing more than an impulse buy, Shane. It's an impulsive purchase.
Well, it does have an attractive price point.
Isn't that
so? And that reference, I guess that would be a good thing for the PS2, which must be one hell of an impulse buy now.
But in the context, I mean, it was meant as an insult.
Yeah, Dave.
Which,
Carrigan.
I mean, it's flawed in that an impulse purchase implies you can walk into a store and buy one.
Right.
True that.
Yeah, and that quote is attributed to World of Warcraft Warlock class lead and Sony Corporate Communications Director Dave Carricker. The exact quote is, "We could be considered an impulse buy more than anything else."
Well, I mean, it's like a duck is a duck. Yeah, it's a low price thing. It's hot. Everybody thinks it's really cool. Wants to play it. It's an impulse buy.
Well, I think he's
everybody
right.
wants it.
I mean, there's people with the impulse to buy Wii.
Yeah.
And
I just wish we could.
Yeah,
not,
like
not so much
impulse
for
fading.
the others.
The PS3 is not an impulse buy. You're not going to say, "Oh, PlayStation 3, I happen to have $650 today in my wallet." No, probably not. Like you
You're going
carefully
to save for it. You're going to get a second job.
You carefully consider like a large electronics. You don't impulse buy an HDTV or a computer either.
Sony, I don't know if you're supposed to do this. I was thinking about this after the story surfaced. Who was this? Sony Senior VP Takeo Yuhara. We may look at the price as part of our strategy to expand the market when the timing's right. That's essentially an admission of like, yeah, we're going to drop the price, and we probably need to. But is that even? Should you be doing that?
Not necessarily the smartest strategic
as you're getting
move.
to enter, the lean part of like console unit sales for the next 4 months.
It's the same reason why Microsoft's like, Zephyr, it's just a prototype.
Yeah, it's an internal product only.
It's like you're telling people, okay, you know what? We know our sales are kind of slow, and if they get slow enough, we'll lower the price. But where's the incentive to go buy one?
It's not there yet. Analysts said that they expected Sony's profits to be down by 50%. This is like how to miss the mark. Sony's profits were sagged; they were a little bit lower.
You mean the Sony Computer Entertainment or Sony Corporation?
Sony Corporation.
And
because Sony Corp's overall sales were not as low as expected due to the record performance of Sony Pictures and the television development.
They're selling the hell out of the Bravias. Let's be serious. The Bravias are selling like crazy. They're the highest priced LCD in the marketplace.
Those successes help to offset
the
giant losses of the game group.
The loss that Sony took for the year, instead of the 50% that was expected, 5.3%. Yeah, pretty fine.
Because they had
good job, guys. Though analysts continuing to amaze me that they have continue to amaze me that they have jobs that they're paid to do. It's like
Magic 8 Ball.
Yeah, it really is it's the Magic 8. Can I have a job like that? Can I do that?
You could just go. Today, I think Microsoft's going to. They're probably going to make some money off that business.
Luke, you can expense a Magic 8 Ball for work.
Excellent.
I have one you can borrow.
Oh, so I'm going to start using that for news. Actually,
okay. It's a Simpsons one.
Try again later.
I have like a little mini Yoda one. I think came like with some Burger King meal or something.
Oh, I see. We're not to the Microsoft part yet. Sony,
that would have been great.
Wow.
If he'd have been ready for it.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, if that would have been great if you'd been following along in your handy dandy news guide that you have in front of you. Sony on Splitfish Rumble. There's a story that surfaced earlier this week. A company called Splitfish has found a way to circumvent Immersion's patents to make the 6-axis rumble. The catch is that Sony's not really looking for their system to rumble, so that it's like great that this company made a way for the console to rumble. But Sony told us, yeah, we haven't.
Who the hell are Splitfish?
Dude, they were here last week, and these guys are nuts. They also have a device that clips onto the top of a PS2 controller and turns it into a 6-axis.
Really?
Yeah, it's like this deal that clips onto the top of it. You plug it into the controller port.
Shouldn't these guys have like an invention show to put on Saturday mornings?
Something like that.
Maybe like is it Bill Nye the Science Guy's new company? Was
it Daniel Lesko, the guy with the question marks all over?
And you can put a bun and a hot dog in it at the same time, and they cook at the same rate.
So they had another deal like that. They had like a first-person shooter thing that was a handle with a joystick on it and a mouse and a mouse pad.
Andrew just corrected me. His name is not. It's Matthew Lesko because he famously dressed as him for Halloween one year. The dude with the question mark.
That was a great costume.
Oh, the guy with the book?
Yeah.
Ah.
Anyway.
It didn't say only on the Xbox 360 when it shipped last year, so no one should really be surprised that PlayStation 3 owners. And I think this might have even been in Quarterman that PlayStation 3 owners are going to get Saints Row.
Yes.
You guys said that. That's a Quarterman.
Yep.
Fact.
I thought you were talking about Lost Planet. I was looking ahead.
No.
Okay, so let's just guess now. How positive is the with Saints Row PS3? It's awesome going to be versus Saints Row 360. That shit sucks.
It's gonna be.
Saints Row was well received by the critics and the media.
A year ago.
We talked about it at the very beginning of the show, but we were going to mention the new Castlevania stuff. But you can listen to the first segment again. Let's be serious. You're gonna anyway. All Pro Football 2008 to tackle Madden head on. This is something it's sort of like, hey, guess what? Everyone knew this was going to happen. We're just waiting for when. And I think that as someone who misses the 2K football games. I'm really interested to see how they're going to sort of circumvent licensing issues, and because you still want to be able to connect with the NFL in some way, and without it just being.
Are they going to have any licensed anything in it? Any licensed players?
They might have Legends or something.
They might have.
Because that's a huge undertaking for them. Because there's no players' association, there's no organization.
Well, NFL
they have to go to everyone individually to do a deal with them to get these guys in. And these guys, they're going to want, I want my 1979 stats, not my 1982 stats, because, I kind of got fat and sucked for a while.
Yeah, like, is it Joe Montana circa 86 or Joe Montana circa Chiefs?
Is that really a big question? I mean, which character do you want to play? You want to play, if you're playing a legend, you want to play the legend at the peak of their performance.
Right, but I mean, what they might be better served by doing is what Konami ended up doing with Winning 11, which then spawned a sort of trade on the back end, and the user community is like, here is a shell where you can edit every stat, every name, every graphic, every whatever, and then there will be people that go in and change all the names and tweak all the stats and then share these things. We used to have to do it with memory cards and the old NCAA games and with Winning 11, but hopefully they'll build something into the game where online there is a way to trade this stuff.
Yeah. Is there any doubt in anyone's mind that that's the way it'll be? Visual Concepts, if you remember the 2K games, they were the ones that had those fantastic tie-ins to the website with the leagues and all that ability to manage stats, and there's no doubt in my mind that's the way it'll be.
Yeah, I think fans have a lot of faith in them and are looking forward to it. I'm curious if they'll be more successful with their upcoming comic book movie license action game, Fantastic Four and Silver Surfer, than Tiburon was with Superman. We'll see.
It's like a different battle within a battle within a battle. Garnet mentioned Burger King earlier. It seems appropriate now because we're going to talk about Microsoft. Let's talk about how the Burger King games drove Burger King revenues in the last quarter.
More than 3.2 million copies of that game sold. And here's the amazing part. Because they sold Xbox games, they issued their first quarterly dividend as a public company. That's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
I mean, when people talk about games going mainstream,
that's mainstream.
That's mainstream.
That's mainstream.
A $5 game that didn't cost a fortune to put out, that's mainstream gaming.
You can get millions of people to buy commercials. That's pretty good.
It worked.
Yeah.
Their profit jumped.
And it came with a tasty burger.
Really?
There you go.
Well, not so tasty.
Maybe next we'll get something with a breakfast sandwich.
It came with a limp brown patty that we're assured has beef in it.
Says the guy who used, what was it? They used a Jack in the Box burger at 10 in the morning to remedy a hangover.
It worked. Well, kind of. It nearly worked.
To continue talking about Microsoft, the memory card, the 512 megabyte memory card surfaced and then was amazingly pulled from online retail sites. We talked about the expanded memory card a couple weeks ago when we told you about the expanding file size for Live Arcade. And we talked about at the top of the show with the Shivering Isle stuff. If this is the way that downloadable content is going to go, isn't it just at this point just necessity to buy a hard drive?
Right. Isn't it just a necessity for Microsoft to get off their ass and give us a bigger hard drive?
Give us a bigger hard drive and make the 20 gig one really cheap.
Christ, get with the program.
You're paying for portability.
I mean, the thing pops off. I mean, it's what? It's 6 inches long.
Get with the program. Familiar with 6 inches long, are you?
Oh God.
You kind of looked offended at that. Like,
Garnet, that's roughly average.
I kind of see the way I'm sitting, Garnet.
He's tried to spin it already. He's like, man, I swear to God, I'm average.
Ken Kuragi, totally average.
Wow.
That was a joke, you people.
Oh my God.
Shane finally out of the closet.
Seriously.
Lost Planet producer Yun Takeuchi respects and fears Western Development Studios. Here's what he said. So this trend, quote, game development isolationism, I think is very troubling. I'm concerned about what will happen to the industry in Japan, he explained. I think Western developers borrowed and learned from Japanese developers all those years when Japan was ahead. They built on that and just blazed ahead on their own. There's so many new, creative, inventive games coming out in the West. Games like Gears of War and Halo built on the past, but just take everything to the next level. Is Takeuchi... Is he on target or off target and assuming that there's a paradigm shift and Western development is going to eclipse Japanese development in the game space? Shane?
I think that's a tough question. I mean, I think it kind of ignores Nintendo. It ignores that kind of, like, he's ignoring a huge chunk of the Japanese game market there. So he's talking about, like, from his perspective, making these games for Xbox 360, and it isn't a universal thing he's taling about.
He's been sitting in the Peter Moore reality distortion field for a little too long.
Are we talking about creativity or are we talking about sales success?
I think that he's probably talking about, I mean, the games he listed were Gears of War and Halo.
Yeah.
He's talking sales success.
I think he's probably talking about numbers.
And I think if you're talking numbers, Western development has already eclipsed Eastern development. if you're talking creativity, I think the Western development still has a ways to go.
I think what are you talking about? Like, as I said, like Nintendogs and Pokemon outsold both of those games. Like seriously, like people forget about that kind of thing.
That's true.
So, apples and oranges.
I think we'll find as a distinction it gets less and less relevant. I mean, what Ryan talked about when he was here about the cultures intermingling, I think there's going to get to a point where it's going to be harder to make the distinction.
Right. And Gears of War, although initially it seemed like a success in Japan, it didn't really sell any hardware. It didn't expand the market.
That's perfect because Peter Moore says that they're still not going to give up in Japan. They're going to keep fighting the good fight.
Well, Blue Dragon made some strides for them. It was a move in the right direction.
Is Lost Odyssey going to continue? Is Lost Odyssey going to be a boost?
Yeah.
Peter Moore said, I think we need to be a competitor as aggressively as we have been since the day we launched in Japan. Little things make your day better. This morning when I woke up, seeing Gears of War is one of the top 10 selling games in Japan on top of Blue Dragon's success over the holidays is vindication of a company that understands what it needs to stick to the task. Great. All right, great.
Well, they have the financial resources.
32,000, like 32 or 33,000 units, and ending up 7th or whatever it was on the Media Crate charts. While it may seem like a small success, is ultimately that. It's an extremely small success. Riccardi did a great interview. John Riccardi, who's one of our Japanese correspondents, did a great interview with Gama Sutra where he sort of blasts Microsoft for championing, this spot on the Media Crate charts. What did San Andreas sell? 220,000.
240,000. Yeah, so it destroyed the sales of Gears of War.
Right. Mass Effect release date leaked. I mean, we wondered when they showed the box art a couple weeks ago, like, shouldn't you be telling us when the game's going to come out?
Or showing us something?
Yeah, there was a little nip slip at Xbox.com where the official release date, which is at this time unconfirmed, of May 18th, 2007 popped up. And I was saying to Andrew this morning when I saw the story, that's way earlier than I was hoping. But in conjunction with, the way that the game will probably be pushed over the next few months, it makes sense within the confines.
I think it's good timing.
So
right.
May, they said Forza before May or in
April.
May.
I heard April. No.
Well, it's before their quarter closes, and their quarter closes at the end of May. So this quarter they're going to get Crackdown out, Forza, and Mass Effect. Then
I hear there's maybe another little something from Japan from Microsoft coming too.
Yeah. Is it? Do you think Blue Dragon? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's after.
Else? Yeah,
that's
it's
after
June
that.
Or something.
Yeah.
I don't. Did anyone understand the Capcom and the AIAS relationship? You sort of sighed.
Well, the whole deal is the AIAS, in order to be nominated for their awards, you have to be a member of the AIAS, and that's being a member of the Academy. Like the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Like you can't win an Oscar unless your studio is a member of the Academy. Same deal here. So last year, Resident Evil 4 didn't win any awards, and God of War won all the awards. And it was funny when David Jaffe went to accept his awards, he thanked Capcom for not being a member of the AIAS because he knew he wouldn't have won the awards.
And then he said cunnilingus.
Then he did say cunnilingus. Famously. Because Jay Moore is a fantastic host. He went blue and everybody went blue. But, yeah, I think, Capcom, they made a big deal about this. But, well, sorry, the rules are the rules. And, we're kind of breaking the rules for you, Capcom. I'm sorry.
Don't break the rules, but don't expect us to, take your rewards seriously if you're not going to cover the entire industry.
It's their prerogative.
It's certainly their prerogative. No, it's absolutely their prerogative, but it's just saying a sample. So.
Well, and this story implies the AIS is like some negative thing that's doing nothing good for the industry, and that's completely short-sighted.
No, but their awards, by nature of only doing that, limits the sample.
Capcom can just drink at the other drinking fountain.
Yeah, there you go. All right, this has been a pretty good show, guys. But what about that gaming literacy thing? We'll have to get back to that, huh?
Maybe next week.
Till then, you know where to catch us, boards.oneup.com. We are going.
This has been a presentation of the One Up Radio Network. For more shows, visit podcast.oneup.com.